From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your Valley Neighborhood Forecast.
Everything Medical has been your complete source for medical supplies since 2007. Our 10,000 square foot showroom has the largest selection of home medical equipment in the North State. We have what you need. Everything Medical, Athens Avenue, Reading.
Well, here we go, right? We're talking about these heat alerts out there, and we had an excessive heat warning. You've known about this the last few days. Friday through Sunday is the time frame of this excessive heat warning. Highs between 100, even upwards of 110. Could we exceed 110 degrees, maybe 111? Yeah, maybe. It's not out of the question here, but the peak will be over the weekend. I do expect temperatures to start to drop after that, so certainly some good news there. All right, let's take a look at the heat risk. Now, this is an algorithm that the National Weather Service has come up with to kind of give us an idea of how dangerous this heat may be. So when you start getting the reds and oranges, that's when you got to kind of have a little bit of an elevated alert here because it's in the moderate to major category. Now, as we go into Saturday, what we're going to see happen is we're going to see a lot more reds on the map, even some purples in some isolated spots here. So that's the major to extreme category. That's the peak of the heat wave because as we go into Sunday, what you'll see happen is we're starting to see those reds kind of get off the map here and more of those oranges as well. So I want to talk to you about the heat safety guidelines, and really not just the safety guidelines, but what we're talking about with the heat alerts here. And that category we were just talking about, how did the National Weather Service come up with that? Well, how unusual is that heat for this time of the year is one of the things that we have to take into account. The duration of the heat, including both daytime and nighttime temperatures. So especially if you don't get much relief overnight, that can kind of add to the danger of the heat that we are seeing. Now, if those temperatures pose an elevated risk of heat-related impacts based on data from the CDC. So really just kind of to help translate that for you, how it impacts people who are more sensitive to the heat, such as the elderly, not to mention, of course, a lot of the young children, too, we need to be aware of. So that's taking a look at the overall guidelines of that heat risk that the National Weather Service has come up with. So here's the deal. We've got an excessive heat warning Friday through Sunday. We've been talking about that, highs between 106 and 111 this weekend. But the temperatures will be dropping next week. So this is not a prolonged 110 plus degree period. But there you can see it's peaking on Saturday. Temperatures start to drop. Now the average high is around 96, 97 for this time of the year. And you can see we're still going to be well above that here, even for Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. So your planner for today, it's just going to be getting hotter. By 10 a.m. we're up to 86. By noon, somewhere around 95, and then it gets about 10 degrees warmer than that later this afternoon. In fact, 105 for Reading, 106 for Red Bluff. Chico high today of about 102 degrees. The low pressure system that's been bringing thunderstorms and keeping things unsettled, even for the valley, we think about over the last week or so, that's finally shifted eastward. So we're not under the influence of that. And that's, number one, the reason why we're not seeing any more thunderstorms, even for the mountains. But number two, it's the reason why temperatures are increasing because high pressure is building in. Taking a look at your futurecast here through Sunday, there's that bubble of heat still kind of right on top of us. So again, it's that heat wave really peaking over the weekend. That heat will shift southward, and there's a reason for that. If you look closely, it's kind of hard to see, but there's a little bit of a trough of low pressure. It's very weak. And that's the reason why it's still going to be hot, but this will be a contributing factor to slightly cooler temperatures going into Monday, Tuesday of next week. Now, what I'm seeing too, you see a little bit of this is what we call a cutoff low right here, but we're seeing some cooler air, slightly cooler air, come in toward the end of next week. This will continue with a slight drop in our temperatures even toward the end of next week. But with that low pressure and with that little bit of a trough, that could also contribute to more thunderstorms, especially in the mountains. So something to look out for here as we get toward the end of next week. But look at the temperature outlook. This is good news, right? Because what we're seeing here, we're in the very bottom category of above normal temperatures, and we're getting closer to seeing at least temperatures near normal. So as I mentioned, temperatures are dropping. It's still going to be hot because the normal high in the valley is in the mid to upper 90s. So if we're around normal, it's still hot, right? But at least we're not going to be over 100 degrees. So today, well, that's not the case. We will be over 100 degrees. 102 for Corning, 102 for Chico, 100 in Paskenta, Gridley about 100, and Oroville topping out at about 101. Taking you northward, there's a look at your 7-day forecast for Red Bluff. Temperatures about 110 degrees over the weekend, much like that of Reading. 106 for Monday, and there you can see Palisadro 104. Cottonwood 104 degrees, and looks like the city of Shasta Lake about 105. So there's your 7-day forecast for Reading. These temperatures are climbing, and the peak is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's when we have the excessive heat warning. Once we get into next week, temperatures will at least start to drop, but we're still over 100 degrees. Even the 4th of July, a high of 103.